Okay, just a quick note on how I break down new structure when I'm looking for fluke. If I'm fishing drop-offs or ledges with the current flowing across the contour lines, then I find the fish could be holding at a range of depth zones. They could be anywhere from, let's say, 20 to 30 feet, and you'll catch fish either on the downslope or upslope side, depending on the tide. The area we were fishing today, which is a new area for me, the current runs perfectly parallel to the contour lines. So in that case, I like to first figure out where the fluke are and then just focus specifically at that depth zone. I find that they don't really move up and down the slope that much if the current is flowing parallel to the contour lines. And in this case, we're fishing very rocky structure, so I am using very light jigs. This is a 3/16 ounce Decoy jig head, which is the same jig head I was using for porgy fishing earlier in the day. I took a ride out here, and I'm just upsizing the gulp a little bit. These are 4-inch gulp nemesis, and then later I used the 5-inch jerk shads. They're still pretty small baits for fluke, but you know, you have to match your bait to your jig head. And I found that if I went a little heavier, say even 1/2 ounce or 3/4 ounce, and I just get hung up. So here the bow of my kayak is pointed directly parallel to, I think I'm starting off at 25 feet. So from here directly in front is 25 feet, and I'm casting directly parallel to whichever depth zone I'm in right now. And I'm using a much more exaggerated jigging motion, popping the jig as I explained in a previous video, as opposed to like 2-inch bounces for porgies. I'm popping it 2-3 feet off the bottom, and this really keeps the porgies away. And since I'm targeting fluke, that's what I want. The big motion really scares off porgies, and at least in theory. So this was the first fish, and it's by far the smallest porgy I've ever even seen. And yeah, it's pretty cute. And I'm thinking about live lining him, but of course that is illegal. To use fish as bait, they have to be legal size. Okay, so once again, I'm just firing down this particular depth zone, and I think I shifted over a couple feet, which corresponded to, I think, a 5-foot drop. So now I'm maybe in like 30 feet. And when you're fishing really sticky structure like this, I don't even let my jig touch bottom. So let's say it normally takes 3 seconds after you pop your jig off the bottom for it to settle back down. Start jigging again after 2.5 seconds, you know. And it's pretty straightforward when your jig is traveling through the same depth zone all the way back to the boat. And here's a second porgy, so I think I'm going to do a little bit of a wiggle again just to target at different depths. But yeah, if you let your jig tick the bottom too often in this kind of structure, you're just gonna lose it. So just kind of swim the jig along the bottom without ever really touching any of the rocks. There's fluke there, they're gonna swim out and grab the jig. So here I think I'm in about 35 feet. And you know, the wind and tide was just excellent that day. The wind really didn't do anything. It was very, very low. And the current is just running straight at me. So using my pedal drive, just slowly pumping, I'm keeping the boat just completely stationary. I'm not being pushed left or right either, so it's pretty perfect conditions to test out this new spot. So here, getting a little warmer, because, you know, sea robins I associate more with fluke than with porgies. And yeah, it would have been nice if I had one like this last week for that catch and cook episode. Okay, so I shifted a little bit more. Now I think we're about 42 feet, and I'm going with a 5-inch jerk shad. You know, this bait has no action on its own. Everything happens on the fall. So when you pop this up, it's going to kind of walk the dog underwater, especially if you pop it on slack line. And then if you have a loop knot, which I do tied to the jig head on the fall, once again on slack line, it's going to do a little shimmy. And I've taken a lot of fluke on this bait. Okay, so I missed that fish and I missed it again. So now I'm just kind of ticking that bait, making the fluke think that it's injured. I don't know. It's pretty frustrating. Okay, so that fish came back for it. And yeah, there's some weight to this one. And right now I still don't know if it's a big porgy or a fluke, but here it just kind of flattened out. And now I know it's either a fluke or a ray. It's not doing much head shaking. And of course I brought my porgy net. So I'm kind of worried, you know, if a keeper fluke will even fit into that net. Okay, so just barely. And yeah, with a small net, your fish looks huge.
They have to be 19 inches.
Alright, so I had a fellow kayaker, not a fishing guy, just happened to pass through. But yeah, I really haven't devoted much time to fluking this year after the beginning of the season. But there's definitely fluke around. I just don't think they're in any high concentrations. So as usual, we bleed the fish, and here I get a visit from the DEC, and it's always nice to see them on the water.
By the way. Yeah. So I don't want to get Okay.
Yeah, it was a very pleasant experience. They made sure to gently secure my boat next to theirs. I told them I'm in an inflatable kayak. So
I'm only keeping the ones that are over like 15. Yeah, no, there's some giant porgies here.
yeah, so obviously these guys like to fish, and they were courteous, they were professional. You know, and we basically talked fishing for a few minutes. They measured my fish, they checked my marine license, and sent me on my way.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, as far as police encounters go, I'd much rather it happen on the water than on land while I'm driving. Anyway, so there's my bag of fish. And yeah, it was a nice surprise, this fluke. Well, not really a surprise because I was targeting fluke, but still it's nice to know that they're around. So okay, thanks for watching, and if you like what you see, subscribe.